Hi guys, it's Starla. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I thought today it would be fun to answer some questions from one of the Get to Know Me tags. So I wrote down some of the questions that I found online and I'm going to answer them for you, hopefully so that you can get to know a little bit more about me. The first question is, what is your full name? And my full name is Starla Renee Miller. My maiden name was Thompson. Where were you born? I was born in Farmington, New Mexico. Where did you grow up and where do you live now? This one I think is kind of unique for most people. I live on the same street in Farmington where my mother brought me home from the hospital when I was born. I did live in Michigan for 5 years. I lived in a little town called Aztec for a year, and I lived in another part of Farmington for a year. But other than that, I have lived my entire life in 3 different houses on the same street. So sometimes I feel like I'm kind of trapped in the street that never ends. What is your best feature? I think my best physical feature would be my eyes. And I even have a little bit of problem with those. I have a drooping eye and I have a little bit of hooded eyes. But all in all, I like my eyes. I like the color. Growing up, which relative was closest to you and why? I did not have brothers and sisters. I was close and am close to my mother, but if I had to name one relative, my paternal grandmother, my biological father's mother, she was everything to me. Seriously, she was my shelter from all of life's storms. She loved me unconditionally. She never ever put me down. She encouraged me to follow my dreams. She taught me so much. She spent time with me. She played with me. She made crafts with me. And any time in my life when I felt like I needed someone, she was there for me. I loved her so much. She has been gone 16 years next month. I think about her every day, and there are actually times when I still pick up the phone and dial the first few numbers, and then it dawns on me, oh, Grandma's not there anymore. But I know that she is in heaven, and I know that she watches over me. What is your biggest accomplishment? When I was 30 years old, I went back to school. I went to cosmetology school and I stuck it out and I graduated. I really enjoyed it. I really wanted to be a hairdresser and a makeup artist. Unfortunately, a few weeks before I graduated, I started to really present symptoms of my fibromyalgia. And I can't do the hair. My hands cripple up. It wasn't a total waste. I did get a lot of knowledge, and my kids got free haircuts for years. But yeah, that's one of my biggest accomplishments. Biggest fear? My biggest fear is something happening to one of my children. And I think that's every parent's biggest fear, because, you love your kids. I love my daughters with everything that I am. And when my husband died, I became very much more aware of how fragile life is. And, we only have a short time. And I want my children to live long, full, happy lives. Biggest regret? I don't have a lot of regrets. I do have some. I mean, everybody does. But the things that I did, the things that I went through, everything in my past, everything in y'all's past, all of it is what makes us who we are. All of it is what builds us up and builds our character and turns us into the people that we are today. One regret that I kind of have, when I had my second baby, when I was 22 years old, I had a very difficult pregnancy, and my husband and my doctor and some of my relatives pretty much talked me into having a tubal ligation. I do have a sister-in-law that talked to me a long time about, are you sure you want to do this? And, all the questions they ask you, what would happen if your marriage didn't work out and you were with someone else that wanted a child? What if one of your children died? But I went ahead and I had the tubal ligation. After that, I had severe problems with my menstrual cycles for the next 7 years. I would have periods that lasted for 5 or 6 months. I know, TMI, but they tried all kinds of things. They couldn't fix me. They ended up doing a complete hysterectomy, and I'm not exactly sure how everything went, but I was told that none of those things possibly would have happened if I hadn't had the tubal ligation. I was told it was something about a hormonal change that it caused in my body. But if I could go back, I don't think I would have the tubal ligation. What is the most important thing in your life? Well, obviously my children are the most important people in my life. But the most important thing in my life, I would say, is my faith in God. I'm not a big believer of organized religion. I'm not like what my grandma used to call a Bible thumper. I don't preach at other people. I'm not very judgmental. But I do feel like I have tremendous faith in God and in Jesus. And I know I would not have survived the first year after the loss of my husband without that faith. And I pretty much have tremendous faith in God. I always have. And so I guess my faith is the most important thing to me. Let's see. What has required the most courage in your life so far? I think going on and raising my daughters as a single parent after my husband died. He died when they were 12 and 14, so we were just entering the fun teenage years. But it is hard, but I don't know so much that it requires courage, because when you're in that situation, what are you going to do? It's something you have to do. You have no choice. You have to go on and raise them by yourself. Okay, these are a little bit lighter. Who is your favorite actor? My favorite actor is Richard Gere. I had never even heard of him until I went to the movies with a friend when I was, I think, 15 to see Breathless. And after that movie, I knew who Richard Gere was. I've watched every movie he has ever been in. I just really like him, and I think he's a good actor, and I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that the first time I saw him, it was like my first experience in lust. I just think he's a good actor. My favorite actress is Natalie Wood. She has been my favorite actress since I was 4 or 5 years old. The first time I saw Miracle on 34th Street. And the really great thing about television and movies, even though Natalie Wood was 10 years older than my mother, I got to grow up watching her, and I got to see her when she was the same age as I was. So it was like she was always there with me. My favorite movie of all time is Splendor in the Grass. I love Natalie so much. I love everything about her, her fashion sense, her movies, even some of her movies that were not that good. Her part in them was good. She was an incredible actress, and she went from child star to teen actor to ingenue to adult roles almost seamlessly. If you haven't heard of her or you haven't seen her, check her out. She's amazing. I'm very, very sad about the way that she died. And her case, which was originally ruled accidental drowning, was reopened in 2011. Robert Wagner has been named a person of interest, and they are investigating her death. And I really pray for justice for her, because she was robbed from so much from her life. It really makes me sad. My favorite musician is Paul McCartney. When I was a little girl, I had a little record player that played film strips, and it was called a show and tell. My parents gave me some of their older scratched up records because I wanted, what I called grown-up music. A few of those records were the Beatles, and I just fell in love. I just loved the Beatles. I loved the music so much. And my favorite was Paul McCartney. When I was 9 years old, after my uncle died, my mother had a box of papers from his house that he had written on, and one of the papers said Paul McCartney and Wings, Red Rose Speedway. I had no idea that Paul McCartney had another band, and I had to have that album. I saved all of my allowance until I could go to the store and get it, and I was hooked ever since. Wings and the Beatles are both my favorite bands. Paul is my favorite solo artist, and I like a lot of the things that Paul does and that Paul stands for. I am a vegetarian. I like his animal rights activism for the ethical treatment of animals. I like his paintings. I like his worldviews. I love him. Throughout my life, his music has always been there for me, and he means a lot to me. In 1993, my husband bought tickets for a girlfriend and I, and we went to the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, Michigan, and I got to see Paul McCartney in concert. It was the best concert I have ever been to, and it was a dream come true, and it's one of my happiest memories. Favorite childhood memory? I have really sporadic memories. There's a lot of things in my life that I just don't remember, a lot of time that's gone. But I think one of my happiest memories, my uncle used to work for Coca-Cola, and or he may have worked for Pepsi, I'm not sure. It was one of those. But I remember he would bring his truck to our house, and I would get to go out, and he would open his truck up, and I would get to go in, and it seemed to me like just this enormous truck. And I know they're not that big, but I was little. And he would let us select a pop. He would let me pick whatever one I wanted, and my other uncle pick whatever one he wanted. And it was just such a happy memory. I know we had to look at every kind of pop that he carried, and then we both got orange every time. Go figure. Okay, the next one. What is your favorite drink? Right now, for the last probably 2 years, my favorite drink is Powerade Zero in the blue. It's so good. I just love it. Favorite fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. I love everything about Beauty and the Beast. I love the story. I love the happily ever after. I love the don't judge a book by its cover. I just love all of it. And when Disney came out with the Beauty and the Beast cartoon animated feature, I love that. And when they just came out with the live action feature with Emma Watson, I love that. I love Beauty and the Beast. Ice cream flavor is pralines and cream. I usually get pralines and cream and Jamocha almond fudge, but if I can only have one, pralines and cream. Music genre. If I had to pick a genre, I would say classic rock, but music is very important to me. It's a very important part of my life, and I love almost all music. I mean, going back to like the 20s all the way to today, I love the country, the rock, the jazz, the pop, some rap, believe it or not. I never thought that that would happen, but I love it all. And of course I like the pop from the 80s because that's when I was a teenager. I love it all. I love music. Music can make anything better. Favorite quote. In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Favorite subject in high school. My favorite subject was English. I loved to write. I loved stories and compositions and essays. The thing that I didn't like is the things like dissecting sentences and, you know, the forms like the adverbs, nouns, verbs, dangling participles. I don't even know if I said that right, but you know, I didn't like that at all, and I didn't like math. Favorite TV. I like a lot of different shows, but mainly my heart is with true crime. I love Cold Case, CSI. I love the Investigative Discovery channel. I love anything true crime. I like the movies, the TV shows, the books. Just, I mean, gotta have it, love it. If I could have gone to college and done anything I wanted with my life, I more than likely would have been a forensic investigator or a forensic psychologist. Dog or cat? I have always preferred dogs. However, I did have a Siamese cat, my Kiki. We got her when she was just a tiny baby. Somebody had abandoned her, and our neighbor brought her over to see if we wanted her. The minute that I saw her, I just fell head over heels in love. She was my constant companion for 18 years. She was different from other cats. I mean, she followed me around like a dog. If I would go next door or something to visit the neighbors, she would wait at the gate. Whether I was in there for an hour or 4 hours, she would be at the gate waiting for me when I came out. She was everything. I love her so much. And she passed a couple of years ago. Okay. Who do you call when something exciting happens? Who's the first person you call? I call my kids. Who do you call when something terrible happens? I call my mom. I guess because, you know, who doesn't want their mom when something bad happens? Do you believe in love at first sight? I absolutely do. When I was 16 years old, I was going with my mother to her friend's house, and we passed a man who was out in his yard with a woman and a small child. And the minute I saw him, it was like my soul cried out. And I literally turned to my mother and said, that's the man I'm going to marry. For all I knew, he had a wife and kids, you know, he was with those people. But it's really strange. It's just, I knew when I saw him, I knew. And I babysit for his neighbors. He was their neighbor. I babysit, and I got to know him through them. And we started out as friends, and I married him when I was 19 years old, and I was with him until he died when I was 34. He was the absolute love of my life. I never dated anyone else in any serious capacity. He was my first everything, and I miss him every day. Okay, most used swear word. You probably wouldn't guess it to look at me, but I love the F word. My husband used to tease me and say that the Navy sent sailors here before boot camp so that I could teach them to swear. That's how bad my swearing is. I'm really working on getting better at it now that I'm a grandma, but I don't know. How difficult is it for you to forgive someone who doesn't apologize? This one is fairly recent, within the last couple of years. I used to not be able to forgive. I used to hold a grudge forever. But I finally figured out that when you forgive someone, it's not for them, it's for you. You know, if I forgive someone, it doesn't mean that what they did to me was okay or that I'm good with it. It just means that I don't want to carry that crap around anymore, that I want to shake it off and be free from it. And when you don't forgive someone, you're just giving them a whole bunch of power, because it's probably not even bothering them like it's bothering you. So just forgive and let it go. That doesn't mean you have to have those people in your life. It doesn't mean what they did was okay. It just means that you've chosen forgiveness for your own peace of mind. Let's see. If you had to give up a sense, which one would you give up? That one's easy for me because I do not have a sense of smell. I have not been able to smell since I was 3 years old. Not anything, not at all. I used to be really upset about it. I used to want to smell, but in my battles with compulsive overeating and obesity, and in observing the way that people react to the smells of foods, I'm thinking maybe it's a really good thing that I can't smell. So let's see. What is hard about being a parent? For me, the hardest thing about being a parent now that my children are adults is knowing that I cannot fix everything for them, and knowing that I taught them the best I could my morals and values and right from wrong, but that doesn't mean that those are their morals or their values, and that I just have to back off and let them live their own lives however they're going to do it. Describe yourself in a single sentence. She is on a journey of self-discovery to determine who she really is. What makes you sad, if anything, about your parents? I'm sad that my mother has multiple sclerosis. She used to be a very active, very independent woman, and she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2001, and it has slowly taken everything from her. And it's so sad to watch someone that you love so much lose their independence, lose their balance, lose their lives. It's very difficult. I'm sad for my dad because he is 72 years old and he is still working full-time every day and will probably never be able to retire because of the cost of medication in and the cost of living. Let's see, I think we're almost done. I know this is a long video, and I'm sorry. Let's see. When was the last time you cried? Yesterday. What came first, the chicken or the egg, and why the chicken came first? Because God created the animals, and then the chicken laid an egg. Texting or phone calls, always texting. I'm phonophobic. I can't stand to talk on the phone. I have a smartphone, but I use it for everything other than a phone. And I think that's about it. This was a really long video, so if you made it this far and you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more of me, please subscribe. I'm still not sure of an uploading schedule, but you know, I'll do it when I can. Until next time, bye-bye.